The child's scream tore through the marketplace just as the Veltheran warships descended. Mara felt the vibration in her chest before she heard it, a sound no human throat should make, resonating at frequencies that shattered glass displays and sent merchants scrambling for cover. She grabbed her daughter's thin shoulders, but Lyra's eyes had already rolled back, her small body rigid as that impossible sound poured from her lips. "Get back!" someone shouted. The crowd scattered like startled birds. Mara held on even as her hands went numb from the vibration. 7 years of this. 7 years of locked doors, whispered prayers, and neighbors who painted symbols on their walls to keep the cursed child away. The priest said Lyra carried a demon. The doctors said her vocal cords were malformed, that the seizures would kill her before adolescence. Everyone said Mara should have left her at the temple steps when she first showed the signs. The scream stopped. Lyra collapsed boneless and panting. Above them, the Veltheran ships hung like obsidian daggers against the afternoon sky. Mara had seen the broadcasts, knew that First Contact had turned into First Conquest in less than 72 hours. The Veltherans didn't negotiate. They evaluated, categorized, and claimed. "Mama?" Lyra's voice cracked, small and humid again. Blood trickled from her nose. "I'm here, little moon." "I'm here." Mara wiped the blood with her sleeve, scanning for escape routes. The marketplace had emptied except for the bodies of those who'd been too close when the scream hit. Not dead, Mara noted with relief. Just unconscious, their ears bleeding. A shadow fell across them. Mara looked up into a face that belonged to nightmares. The Veltheran soldier stood 8 feet tall, its chitinous armor seamless with its body, forearms held in a posture that might have been ceremonial or aggressive. Its eyes, 6 of them in a geometric pattern across its elongated skull, reflected no light. When it spoke, the translation device at its throat turned clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless words. The child, "Bring her none." The word left Mara's mouth before her survival instinct could stop it. The soldier's head tilted, an insectoid gesture of confusion. Refusal is noncompliance. Noncompliance results in termination. The evacuation centers were 3 miles away, now probably overrun. The bunkers were sealed. The military was scattered. She had nothing but a 7-year-old who screamed frequencies that broke glass and her own fierce, useless love. "She's sick," Mara said, keeping her voice steady. "Whatever you want her for, she won't survive it. The fits come without warning. She's dying." The soldier's primary eyes focused on Lyra, who had curled into Mara's side, trembling. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the soldier's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sound the translator didn't process. "All specimens are evaluated by the Queen's sight. Bring the child or be eliminated with the other non-compliant stock." The word hit Mara like a physical blow. Around the marketplace, more Veltheran soldiers were emerging from their ships, methodically scanning humans with devices that hummed at the edge of hearing. Those who passed some invisible test were marked with a bioluminescent tag on their wrists. Those who failed were left where they stood, their tagged neighbors stepping over them without looking back. Lyra tensed against her. Mara felt it building, the pressure change in the air, the way her daughter's breathing went shallow and rapid. "Don't," Mara whispered desperately. "Baby, please don't." This time Mara heard the harmonics, the layered frequencies that shouldn't exist in a human voice. The Veltheran soldier staggered backward, its translator sparking and dying. 3 of its eyes dimmed. It raised one arm, and Mara saw the weapon forming in its palm, organic and terrible. Then a new sound cut through the chaos, a single pure tone that made Mara's teeth ache and her vision blur. The soldier froze. All across the marketplace, every Veltheran stopped mid-motion, their heads turned toward the largest ship. The tone came again, and this time Mara understood. Not words, but meaning impressed directly into her consciousness. Bring the resonant one. Now. The soldier in front of them recovered, its remaining eyes fixed on Lyra with what might have been fear or reverence. It lowered its weapon. "The Queen has heard," it said, its voice different now. Quieter, almost careful. "The child is summoned to the throne vessel. You will accompany. I'm not letting you take her anywhere without me." Separation is not. The soldier gestured with 2 arms, a movement that was unmistakably an instruction to follow. The Queen's sight does not wait. "Your offspring has made a sound we have not heard in 300 cycles. The Queen will determine if she is threat or treasure." Lyra's hand found Mara's small fingers squeezing tight. The girl's eyes were clearer now, focused with an intensity that seemed too old for her face. "It's okay, Mama," she whispered. The voice in the sky, It doesn't hurt like the others. It feels like singing. Mara looked at her daughter, at this child everyone called cursed and broken, and made the only choice she could. She stood, pulling Lyra up with her, and faced the towering alien soldier. "Then take us to your queen." The soldier's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval or surprise. It turned and began walking toward the throne vessel, and Mara followed with Lyra's hand in hers, stepping over the unconscious bodies of their neighbors, walking away from the only life they'd known toward a ship that blotted out the sun. The interior of the throne vessel defied human architecture. Walls curved in ways that hurt to follow, made of material that seemed solid and liquid simultaneously. The lighting came from everywhere and nowhere, a soft bioluminescence that pulsed like a heartbeat. Mara kept Lyra close as they walked through corridors that shifted around them, the soldier's four-legged gait eerily silent on the organic floor. Other Veltharans stopped to watch them pass, tilted their heads in that disconcerting way. Others produced soft clicking sounds that the few functioning translators rendered as surprise, speculation, warning. Mara caught fragments. Human spawn, impossible frequency, queen's interest. They entered a chamber so vast that Mara couldn't see the far walls. The ceiling arched hundreds of feet above, covered in what looked like stars but moved with obvious intelligence. At the chamber's center, on a throne grown from the same living material as the ship, sat something that made every other Veltharan look like a sketch before a masterpiece. The queen was massive, easily 20 feet tall, even seated, her chitinous armor rippling with patterns of light that changed with each breath. 6 arms rested in precise positions, each hand holding objects Mara couldn't identify. Her head was crowned with crystalline structures that refracted the bioluminescent glow into spectrum fragments. But her eyes, dozens of them arranged in concentric circles across her skull. Those eyes were ancient and aware in a way that made Mara's skin prickle with primal recognition. A predator, Mara thought. A predator that thinks. The queen's mandibles parted, and sound emerged that bypassed translation entirely. Mara felt it in her bones, in the water of her cells, in the electric firing of her neurons. Not words, but pure meaning. "Show me the child." The soldier who'd brought them prostrated itself, all 4 arms spread wide. Mara stayed standing, keeping Lyra slightly behind her. The queen's central eyes focused on them. One crystalline claw tacked against the armrest of her throne, producing a tone that made Mara's inner ear spasm. Lyra gasped and stumbled forward, pulled by invisible strings. "No!" Mara lunged, but 4 Veltharan guards materialized, holding her back with terrifying gentleness. Their grip didn't hurt, but she couldn't break it. Lyra walked toward the queen as if in a trance. The child's lips moved, but no sound came out. The queen leaned forward, lowering her massive head until she was level with the 7-year-old human girl. For 10 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the queen sang. The sound that filled the chamber wasn't like anything Mara had heard from the Veltharans before. It was complex, layered, beautiful, in an alien way that made tears spring to her eyes without understanding why. The crystalline structures on the queen's head blazed with light, and the walls themselves seemed to resonate, amplifying the sound until Mara felt like she was inside a living instrument. Lyra stood perfectly still, her small body trembling. Then, impossibly, she sang back. The sound that came from Lyra's throat was the same impossible frequency that had shattered glass in the marketplace, but controlled now, shaped into something deliberate. It wove between the queen's tones like a needle through fabric, harmonizing and diverging in patterns that seemed mathematical and emotional at once. The guards holding Mara released her in shock. Every Veltharan in the chamber had frozen, their eyes fixed on the child. The queen's song grew more complex, adding layers and harmonics that pushed at the edge of perception. Lyra matched her, note for note, her 7-year-old voice somehow containing multitudes. Then Lyra's nose began to bleed. Her legs buckled. The queen's song cut off instantly. She moved with startling speed, one massive claw catching Lyra before she hit the ground. The child lay in the queen's palm like a broken doll, blood streaming from her nose and ears, her chest hitching with shallow breaths. Mara ran forward, no longer caring about protocols or alien hierarchies. "Let me have her, please." The queen's eyes swiveled to Mara, and for the first time, the alien made a sound the translator could process. "This offspring is not cursed. This offspring is resonant. We thought the capacity extinct. We thought we had killed the last of them when we claimed the Valar homeworld 300 cycles past. I don't understand." Mara reached for Lyra, and astonishingly, the queen lowered her hand, letting Mara gather her daughter close. What's happening to her? The Valar could speak the frequencies of space itself. They could sing to stars and silent suns. They were beautiful and terrible, and we destroyed them because we feared what they might become. The Queen's voice carried weight that the translator struggled to convey, regret perhaps, or something like it. But their gift was not in their biology alone. It was in the structure of their consciousness, the way they perceived vibration and meaning as one. We thought we had eliminated it. We thought the galaxy was safer for the silence we imposed. Lyra stirred in Mara's arms, her eyes fluttering open. Why does my head hurt? Because you are singing songs your body is not designed to sing, the Queen said, her tone different now, almost gentle if such a word could apply to an 8-foot insectoid horror. Because you carry the gift of a dead species in a form never meant to hold it. The seizures, the uncontrolled screaming, your human frame is destroying itself trying to express what should not exist within it.
Then make it stop.
Take it out of her, fix her, do something. There is nothing to remove. The gift is not external. It is woven into how her mind structures reality. The Queen rose from her throne, towering over them. Without intervention, she will be dead within 2 cycles of your planet's sun. The frequencies will tear her apart from the inside. Mara felt the words like a knife. 7 years of hope and struggle, collapsing into this cold certainty in an alien throne room, light years from anything she understood. However, the Queen continued, I did not summon her to watch a miracle die. I summoned her because in 300 cycles I have not heard the Velar song. I have not felt the resonance that makes space itself sing. And I made a choice long ago that I have questioned in the silence that followed. The Queen extended one claw. A sphere of light materialized above it, showing images Mara's brain struggled to parse. Alien cities, strange geometries, creatures that moved through what might have been water or air or something else entirely. The Valar, the Queen said. We killed them because they could have destroyed us. Because their songs could unmake our ships, could turn our worlds to dust, could reach into the quantum foam and reshape reality. But we also killed them because they were beautiful, and we did not understand beauty that was not our own. She closed the claw, and the images vanished. Your offspring cannot survive as she is, but she could survive as something else. My species has mastered biological integration. We could rebuild her, give her a form that can safely channel the frequencies she carries. She would be changed. Part human, part Veltherin, part Valar through the genetic memory we preserved. She would live. She would sing without pain. She would be unique in all the known galaxy. No, Mara's voice was flat, absolute. No, you're not turning my daughter into some kind of experiment. The alternative is death, the Queen said simply. I am offering transformation or extinction. These are the choices that exist. Lyra's hand touched Mara's face, drawing her attention down. The child's eyes were clearer than Mara had seen them in months, focused with that unsettling intensity that sometimes emerged between seizures. Mama, I heard them, Lyra whispered. When I sang with her, I heard the ones who came before. They weren't scary, they were just singing. All the time they were singing, and it made everything better. The plants grew, the air was sweeter, even the stars were brighter. And then they stopped, and everything got quieter, and nobody remembered how to sing anymore. The fever. I'm not fevered. Lyra's voice was stronger now. I'm remembering. The Queen showed me when we sang together. She showed me what happened, what she did, what she regretted, and she's telling the truth, Mama. I can feel it breaking me. Every time I scream, something inside tears a little more. It hurts so much when I wake up. Mara looked into her daughter's face, seeing the truth beneath the words, the pain Lyra had been hiding. The slow deterioration everyone called a curse. The Queen waited, silent now, letting the moment rest on its own weight. Around them, the Veltherin guards stood motionless, witnesses to a choice that carried implications Mara couldn't begin to understand. If I say yes, Mara said slowly, if I let you do this, will she still be her? Will she still be my daughter? Memory and consciousness will remain intact, the Queen replied. The core of identity persists through transformation. But she will be changed in ways neither you nor she can fully anticipate. She will be capable of things no pure human could achieve. She will live for centuries rather than decades. She will walk between worlds, belonging fully to none. No, my species learned long ago that fear and pain produce inferior results. She will sleep and wake transformed. The Queen paused, her mandibles clicking softly. But living is something unique, something that exists without precedent or peer, that may hurt in ways I cannot prevent. Loneliness is not a physical wound, but it cuts nonetheless. Mara looked at Lyra, at this child she'd protected against whispers and hatred, against priests who wanted her exorcised and doctors who wanted her studied. 7 years of fighting the world to keep her daughter alive. "What do you want, little moon?" Mara asked quietly. "This has to be your choice, too." Then she said, "I want to sing without hurting. I want to make the beautiful sounds I hear in my head when I'm sleeping. I want to understand what I am instead of just being scared of it." She looked up at the queen, no fear in her gaze. "And I want to learn the songs the others forgot, the ones that made the stars brighter." A gesture of acknowledgement, perhaps of respect. "Then we have a chord," the queen said. She made a complex gesture with her 4 arms, and panels opened in the walls. Velthoran attendants emerged, smaller than the guards, their movements precise and careful. "Your daughter will be taken to the bio-integration chambers. You may accompany her through preparation. When the transformation begins, you will wait in quarters nearby. The process will take 1 sleep cycle. When it is complete, you will be summoned." "And after?" Mara demanded. "After she's changed. What then? Do we go home? Do you let us leave?" "That will depend on what your daughter chooses to become," the queen said. "But I will promise you this. No matter what form she wears, she will not be taken from you unless she wishes it. The bond between parent and offspring is sacred across species. We violated many laws when we destroyed the Velar. We will not compound those sins by breaking families." It was nowhere near enough. But Mara heard the sincerity in the queen's voice, felt the weight of genuine regret in the alien's words. "Okay," Mara whispered. "Okay." The attendants approached with careful deference, gesturing for Lyra and Mara to follow. As they walked toward the open panels, Lyra's hand tight in hers, Mara heard the queen speak once more. "Human parent, your world calls the child cursed. But curses are simply gifts the fearful cannot understand. You protected that gift when others would have smothered it. That is why you are permitted to remain. That is why she will remember you when the transformation is complete. Courage in the defense of the incomprehensible. That is rare in any species." She just held her daughter's hand and walked forward into the transformed future neither of them could escape. The bio-integration chamber was smaller than the throne room, but no less unsettling. The walls pulsed with slow rhythms, and the air smelled of salt and copper and something sweetly organic. In the center stood a structure that might have been a bed or a cocoon or an altar, formed from the same living material as everything else in this impossible ship. Lyra stood before it, looking very small and very human. The attendants had cleaned the blood from her face, fitted her with a light garment that dissolved against her skin like morning dew. Mara had been allowed to stay this long, but now the lead attendant was gesturing toward a door, a clear dismissal. "I'm scared, Mama," Lyra said softly. Mara knelt, taking both of her daughter's hands. "Me too, little moon." "Me too. What if I wake up and I'm not me anymore? What if I forget you?" "Then I'll remind you." Mara touched her daughter's cheek. "I'll tell you about the day you were born, when you came out screaming so loud the doctor dropped his instruments. I'll tell you about the first time you sang, not the scary singing, but the lullaby I taught you when you were 3. I'll tell you about every moment we've had together until you remember who you are." Lyra threw her arms around Mara's neck, clinging tight. Mara held her, memorizing the weight of her daughter's body, the smell of her hair, the rhythm of her breathing. "I love you," Mara whispered. "No matter what changes, that doesn't. Do you understand? That's the one thing that doesn't change." "I love you too," Lyra whispered back. Then she pulled away, wiping her eyes, and climbed onto the structure. The material molded around her, gentle and encompassing. The attendants moved with practiced efficiency, placing devices at precise points around her small body. The lead attendant looked at Mara, its translator producing words with unexpected kindness. "We will care for her as our own offspring. The Queen has mandated perfection. You may trust us with this sacred task." Mara nodded, not trusting her voice. She watched as the material began to enclose Lyra, creating a translucent shell. Her daughter's eyes met hers through the membrane, wide and trusting. Then the light grew too bright to watch, and the attendant was gently guiding Mara toward the door. The quarters they gave her were comfortable in an alien way, furniture that adjusted to her body, walls that showed projections of Earth landscapes when she looked at them too long, food that was nutritious if bland. Mara sat and waited while time stretched and compressed around her anxiety. She thought about the marketplace, about the neighbors who'd spat when she passed, about the priests who'd called her daughter demon-touched. She thought about the nights holding Lyra through seizures, cleaning blood from her pillow, singing lullabies through her own tears. She thought about the Queen's words, "Curses are simply gifts the fearful cannot understand." Maybe. Or maybe this was just a different kind of nightmare, and she'd traded one horror for another. But at least Lyra would be alive. At least she'd have a chance at something beyond slow deterioration and fear. The walls pulsed with new light, and the door dissolved. The same attendant stood there, its posture suggesting invitation. "The transformation is complete. The Queen requests your presence in the awakening chamber." Mara's heart hammered as she followed the attendant through corridors that seemed different now, more deliberately beautiful, as if the ship itself was preparing for something significant. They entered a chamber filled with soft, harmonic tones, sounds that didn't hurt but that carried meaning just beneath the threshold of understanding. In the center, the cocoon structure was opening like a flower. What emerged made Mara's breath catch. Lyra stood 7 feet tall now, her body a fusion that shouldn't work but did. Her skin was still human-toned, but overlaid with patterns of chitin that caught the light like opal. 2 arms remained essentially human, though stronger and more graceful. 2 additional arms emerged from her shoulders, elegant and arthropod, capable of gestures no human could make. Her face was still recognizable. Still her daughter's eyes, her daughter's nose, but elongated slightly, with crystalline structures growing from her temples like a crown. But her eyes. Where Lyra had had 2 brown eyes, she now had 6 arranged in a geometric pattern that echoed the Queen's, and when she blinked they moved in sequence, creating patterns of light and shadow. Lyra saw Mara and froze. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Lyra spoke, and her voice was layered now, carrying harmonics that made the air shimmer. "Mama? Do I scare you?" Mara forced her feet to move, crossing the chamber until she stood before her transformed daughter. She reached up, had to reach up now, Lyra was so much taller, and touched her daughter's face. A skin felt familiar beneath the strange patterns, warm and alive. "You could never scare me," Mara said, her voice breaking. "You're still my little moon, just bigger now." Lyra's forearms moved uncertainly, as if she wasn't quite sure what to do with them all. Then 2 human hands and 2 alien claws reached for Mara, pulling her into an embrace that was awkward and fierce and perfect. "I remember everything," Lyra said, her harmonic voice thick with emotion. "I remember you singing to me when I couldn't sleep. I remember the neighbors throwing rocks and you standing in front of me. I remember all of it, Mama." They didn't take any of it away. Mara held her daughter, this strange, beautiful, impossible daughter, and finally let herself cry. Behind them, the Queen had entered the chamber, her massive presence somehow less overwhelming now. She waited until Mara and Lyra separated, then inclined her head in what might have been a bow. "The transformation is successful beyond projections," the Queen said. "The human resilience combined with Velthran biological architecture and the latent Velar gift, the synthesis is stable. Unprecedented, but stable." Lyra turned to face the Queen, and something passed between them. A moment of recognition between beings who shared something Mara couldn't understand. "I can hear it now," Lyra said, her voice carrying wonder and certainty in equal measure. "The song underneath everything. The frequencies that hold atoms together, that make stars burn, that shape space itself. It's so beautiful. It's so much bigger than I thought. That is the gift and the burden the Velar carried, the ability to perceive the fundamental music of reality, and the responsibility that comes with such perception."
"You said you destroyed them because you were afraid," Lyra said, her 6 eyes fixed on the Queen with unsettling intensity.
"Are you afraid of me now?" The Queen was silent for a long moment. Every attendant, every guard in the chamber seemed to hold their breath. "Yes," the Queen finally said. "I am afraid of what you might become. I am afraid of repeating the mistakes of the past. I am afraid that in giving you this gift I have created something that will judge us for the genocide we committed." She paused. "But I am more afraid of a universe where the Velar song is lost forever. Where beauty that could have been is silenced by fear. So I chose the path of hope over the path of certainty, and I will live with the consequences." Lyra's crystalline structures flared with light. She extended one alien claw, and a tone emerged from her throat that made the chamber walls resonate in sympathetic harmony. The sound was pure, complex, layered with meaning that bypassed language entirely. Mara felt it as forgiveness and challenge, as acknowledgement and warning. The queen's eyes closed in sequence, a gesture of receiving. When she spoke again, her voice carried new weight. "You are free to choose your path," the queen said to Lyra. "You may return to your world with your parent, though I suspect you will find it small now. You may remain here and learn the full extent of your capabilities under my guidance. You may travel the stars seeking others like you, though I believe you will find none. Or you may forge a path none of us have imagined. The choice is yours alone." Lyra looked at Mara, 6 eyes searching her face. "What do you want, Mama?" "I want you to be happy. I want you to be safe. I want you to sing without pain." She managed a watery smile. "And I want to be wherever you are, for as long as you will have me." "I can't go back," Lyra said softly. "Not to the marketplace, not to the neighbors who called me cursed, not to being small and human and scared all the time. That life, it would kill me now, even without the seizures. I can feel how big everything is, Mama. I can't unfeel it." "I know," Mara whispered. "I know, baby." Lyra turned back to the queen, her new body moving with grace that seemed instinctive despite its unfamiliarity. "I want to learn. I want to understand what I am, what I can do. I want to know the songs that were lost and find the ones that haven't been sung yet." She paused, her crystalline crown blazing brighter. "But I also want to understand why you killed them. Why you were so afraid of beauty that you destroyed it. Because if I'm going to carry this gift, I need to know what price it demands." The queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval or resignation. "Then you will stay aboard the throne vessel. You will learn from our archives, from our memories, from the genetic echoes we preserved. And I will answer your questions, even the ones that condemn me. It is the least I owe to the species I eliminated." She gestured with her forearms, and the chamber walls transformed, showing images of the galaxy, star systems and civilizations, trade routes and territories, the vast complexity of the Veltheran Empire spread across light years. "But understand this," the queen continued, "what you become will reshape everything. Already news of your transformation is spreading through our communication networks. Some will see you as a miracle, a second chance at the beauty we destroyed. Others will see you as a threat, a weapon we should eliminate before you grow too powerful. You will be watched, studied, feared, and worshipped. You will never again be anonymous or safe in the way you understand safety." "I was never safe before," Lyra said quietly. "At least now I'm not safe for a reason." Mara felt her heart break and swell simultaneously. Her daughter, still her daughter, even in this impossible form, standing before an alien queen and claiming her right to exist, to learn to sing without apology. The queen inclined her massive head. "Then let us begin. The archives await. And the galaxy will learn to hear the Valar song once more, carried in the voice of one who is human and Veltheran and Velar and none of these things. One who is simply Lyra." As attendants moved forward to guide them to new quarters, as the queen's throne room dissolved into corridors of light and living technology, Mara kept her hand in Lyra's, one human hand in one human hand, the only unchanged connection between the woman and the girl who'd been cursed in a marketplace on a conquered world. Lyra looked down at her with 6 eyes that still held the warmth Mara remembered, that still crinkled at the corners when she smiled. "Thank you for not letting them break me, Mama," Lyra said, her harmonic voice gentle. "Thank you for believing I was more than a curse." "Always," Mara whispered. "Always, little moon." And as they walked deeper into the throne vessel, as Earth fell away beneath them and the stars opened up ahead, Mara realized that the curse had never been in Lyra's voice. It had been in the fear of those who couldn't hear the beauty in her screams, who couldn't recognize a gift they didn't understand. But the galaxy was bigger than one marketplace, one world, one species' fear, and now her daughter would sing to all of it. The Veltharan archives were not like human libraries. They were living memories, stored in biological matrices that responded to consciousness itself. Lyra stood before a wall of pulsing tissue that contained 300 cycles of history, and when she touched it, the memories flowed directly into her mind. She saw the Valar as they had been, beings of light and sound and intention, their bodies fluid things that shifted between states of matter based on the frequencies they sang. She saw their worlds, planets where every surface resonated with harmonic beauty, where the very air carried melodies that shaped weather and growth and time itself. She saw their power. Suns dimmed at their command, space folded to their frequencies, matter itself reorganized according to their songs. And she saw why the Veltherans had been afraid. "They didn't mean to threaten us," the queen's voice came from behind her. Mara stood at her daughter's side, watching the same visions play out in the biological archive. But intention is irrelevant when the power is absolute. One Valar scientist, experimenting with stellar harmonics, accidentally collapsed 3 stars. Billions died in the resulting gravitational chaos. The scientist was grief-stricken, sang apologies that reshaped nebulae into monuments of sorrow. But the dead remained dead. They couldn't control it. The power was too big for consciousness to contain safely. Yes, and when we approached them, seeking treaties that would limit their research, seeking safeguards against accidental apocalypse, they refused. They said the song must be free, that to limit it was to betray the fundamental nature of reality itself. They believed constraint was extinction. The archive showed Veltheron warships approaching Valar worlds, showed weapons designed specifically to disrupt harmonic frequencies, showed the Valar singing in their own defense, their voices tearing ships apart, turning weapons to dust, reshaping the very fabric of space into defensive barriers. But also showed the Valar dying, showed their worlds burning, showed the systematic elimination of a species that could have sung the galaxy into paradise or catastrophe with equal ease. We made a choice, the Queen said, between the beauty they offered and the safety we required. We chose survival over splendor. And you've regretted it ever since, Lyra said softly. Every cycle. The galaxy is quieter now. Safer, perhaps. But diminished. Lyra pulled her hand back from the archive, her 6 eyes blazing. I'm not them. I'm not going to accidentally destroy stars or refuse to learn control. I'm human enough to understand limits, Veltheron enough to value structure, and Valar enough to hear the song. Maybe that makes me something better, or maybe it just makes me something new. The Queen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps, but you will be tested. Already the High Council demands to see you, to evaluate the threat you pose. Already our client species are asking if humanity will all be transformed, if we're creating an army of resonant beings. Fear spreads faster than understanding. Then let them fear, Lyra said, her harmonic voice carrying new strength. But also let them hear. I'm not a weapon or a threat. I'm a child who learned to sing without dying. If that terrifies your council, the problem isn't in my voice. Mara watched her daughter speak to the queen of an empire that had conquered Earth in 72 hours and felt fierce pride warring with terror. Lyra was still 7 years old in her mind, still the child who'd cried over scraped knees and begged for bedtime stories. But the being standing here, backed by archives of genocide and speaking with the authority of someone who'd touched the fundamental frequencies of reality, that was someone new. Someone Mara was only beginning to know. The High Council convenes in 2 cycles, the Queen said. You will appear before them. They will question you, test you, attempt to measure your threat level. They have the authority to order your termination if they deem you too dangerous. Will you let them? Lyra asked. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then, I destroyed one beautiful species already. I will not repeat that mistake even if the Council demands it. But I am one voice among 9, and the others do not share my regret. She turned her massive form toward the door. Prepare yourself, Lyra, who is human. The galaxy is about to judge whether your existence is miracle or catastrophe. Veltheron tutors taught Lyra to control her new voice, to sing at frequencies that wouldn't accidentally shatter equipment or rupture organic tissue. She learned to read the harmonic signatures of different materials, to understand how reality itself vibrated at scales beneath perception. And she learned to defend herself. The combat trainers were efficient and merciless, teaching her that every species in the galaxy would see her as either treasure or threat, and both categories led to violence. Mara watched it all from the sidelines, feeling increasingly like a ghost haunting her daughter's transformation. Lyra needed her less and less as the biological architecture settled, as the Valar gift integrated fully with consciousness. The seizures were gone, the pain was gone. But so was the little girl who'd slept curled against her side. She's leaving me behind, Mara told the Queen during one of their rare private conversations. She's becoming what she needs to be to survive, the Queen replied, but she has not forgotten you. Watch. She gestured, and the wall showed Lyra in her quarters, late in the cycle when she thought no one was observing. The girl, the young woman now really, her body aged through the transformation to adolescence, was singing softly to herself, and the melody was immediately recognizable. The lullaby Mara had taught her when she was 3. The simple human song about moonlight and starlight and love that lasts forever, sung now with harmonics that made the walls weep with resonance, that carried meaning in frequencies no human voice could produce, but still the same song. Still the connection. Mara's eyes burned with tears she'd been holding back for days. "She carries you in everything she becomes," the Queen said quietly. "You are the foundation upon which all this transformation stands. Never forget that." The High Council chamber made the Queen's throne room look intimate. It was vast beyond reason, with ceilings lost in darkness and walls that seemed to stretch into different dimensions. 9 thrones arranged in a circle, each occupied by a Veltherin of immense size and obvious authority. The Queen sat in one, her posture neutral. The others regarded Lyra with expressions Mara couldn't read. Lyra stood in the center of the circle, her forearms held in a posture the tutors had taught her. Respect without submission. Mara had been allowed to attend but was relegated to an observer's platform, too far away to help if things went wrong. The counselor directly across from the Queen spoke first, its translator rendering words with cold precision. "We have reviewed the records of the Valar elimination. We have studied the projections of what this hybrid child might become. We are not convinced that the Queen's choice was wise. Wisdom is often indistinguishable from fear," Lyra said, her harmonic voice carrying clearly across the vast space. "The question isn't whether I might be dangerous. Everything with power is dangerous. The question is whether I'll choose to use that power to create or destroy." "And what is your choice?" another counselor demanded. "I choose to learn. I choose to understand what was lost when you killed the Valar. I choose to see if beauty and safety can coexist instead of standing in eternal opposition." Lyra's crystalline crown blazed brighter. "And I choose to live," which apparently is controversial enough to require a council of 9 to debate. "Your existence sets a precedent we cannot afford," a third counselor said. "If one human can be transformed into a resonant being, why not all of them? Why not create an army of Velar singers to challenge Veltheron supremacy?" "Because supremacy maintained through genocide and fear isn't supremacy," Lyra shot back. "It's just violence with better organization." Mara held her breath, watching the 9 counselors process this declaration. The Queen's eyes were closed, her posture unreadable. Finally, the first counselor spoke again. "You are either remarkably brave or remarkably foolish to insult the High Council in the very chamber of judgment. I'm human enough to speak truth without decoration," Lyra said. "Your translator might call it insult. I call it observation. You're afraid of me because I represent something you thought you'd eliminated, but eliminating me won't make that fear go away. It'll just prove that you learned nothing from the Valar genocide except how to repeat it more efficiently." "Then what would you have us learn?" the Queen asked, speaking for the first time. Lyra turned to face her, 6 eyes meeting dozens in a moment of perfect understanding. "That beauty is worth the risk of chaos. That power, controlled by consciousness and compassion, is better than power eliminated by fear. That the universe is big enough for voices you don't understand, frequencies you can't sing, gifts that terrify you." She paused, then added softly, "That a 7-year-old child called Cursed might actually be a second chance at getting things right." The silence stretched for heartbeats that felt like ages. Then the Queen rose from her throne, a gesture of immense significance that made the other counselors shift uncertainly. "I cast my vote," the Queen declared. "Lyra, who was human and is now something unprecedented, shall live. She shall learn. She shall be protected by the full authority of my throne, and any who seek to harm her will answer to me personally." "That is only one voice of 9, the first counselor said coldly. "Then let the others speak." 4 sided with the Queen. 3 voted for termination. 1 abstained, declaring the question too significant to answer without further observation. 4 votes of 9. Not enough for execution, but not enough for full acceptance either. "Lyra shall live," the first counselor said, its voice laden with displeasure. "But she will be monitored, her development tracked, her capabilities measured, and should she demonstrate threat behavior, this council will reconvene. The vote then may go differently." "Understood," Lyra said. Her voice carried no fear, only acknowledgement. The council dissolved, the counselors departing through doors that opened in walls Mara hadn't known existed. Only the Queen remained, descending from her throne to stand before Lyra. "You gambled with your life in there," the Queen said quietly. "I know, but I wasn't going to beg for permission to exist. If they'd voted to kill me, at least I'd have died speaking truth." The Queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or respect. "You are more like the Valar than you know. They too chose beauty over survival. It's what made them magnificent, and what made them extinct." "Then I'll try to learn from their mistakes while honoring their gift," Lyra said. That's all I can promise. She crossed the vast chamber and took her daughter's hand. Just one hand now, letting the alien limbs rest in their own strange grace. Can we go somewhere quiet? Mara asked. Somewhere that doesn't have 9 counselors deciding if you deserve to live? Lyra smiled, an expression that still reached her eyes despite their multiplied number. Yeah, Mama. Let's go somewhere quiet. They ended up in an observation chamber the Queen had prepared for them. Quarters with walls transparent to the cosmos, showing the infinite scatter of stars across the black. Lyra stood at the viewport, her crystalline crown catching starlight and refracting it into rainbows. Do you hate what I've become? Lyra asked suddenly. Mara stood beside her, looking up at her daughter who now towered over her. I hate that you had to change to survive. I hate that the universe gave you a gift wrapped in so much pain that transformation was the only answer. I hate that I can't protect you anymore the way I used to. She took a breath. But hate what you are? Never. You're brilliant and brave and more beautiful than I have words for. You're everything I hoped you'd survive long enough to become. Lyra's forearms moved, too human and too alien, gathering Mara into an embrace that was awkward and perfect. I'm going to stay with the Queen, Lyra said quietly. I'm going to learn everything the archives can teach me about the Valar, about harmonic frequencies, about the songs that shape reality. And then I'm going to find a way to use this gift that doesn't end in genocide or fear.
I know,
Mara whispered. Will you stay with me? I know it's not home. I know you didn't ask to live on an alien warship surrounded by species that conquered Earth, but I need you, Mama. I need someone who remembers when I was small and human and scared, someone who loved me even when everyone else called me cursed. I'll stay as long as you need me, Mara promised. Even when you don't need me anymore, I'll stay until you ask me to leave. You're my daughter. That doesn't change because your shape did. They stood together at the viewport, watching stars drift past as the throne vessel moved through space at speeds that made distance meaningless. Somewhere beyond those stars, Earth turned without them. The marketplace where Lyra had screamed still existed, the neighbors who'd thrown stones still whispered about the cursed child. But here, in the infinite dark, Lyra was learning to be something else, something that had never existed before. Human in Veltharan and Valar, carrying the songs of a dead species in a voice that could shake stars. Mama? Lyra said softly. Yes, little moon? Will you sing with me? Not the Valar songs or the harmonic frequencies, just the lullaby. The one about moonlight and starlight and love that lasts forever. I want to remember what it sounds like in your voice. So Mara sang, her purely human voice small against the vastness of space but perfect in its simplicity. And Lyra joined her, adding harmonics that made the stars themselves seem to listen, that carried the melody across frequencies no human ear could detect but that made the universe more beautiful for existing. They said she was cursed since birth. But curses and blessings were just the same gifts seen from different angles, and Lyra was learning to see from angles no one species had ever mastered. The galaxy would learn to listen, or it would learn to fear. Either way, it would never again be silent. And in the observation chamber of the throne vessel, a mother and daughter sang together, their voices weaving between worlds, proving that love could survive even transformation itself. The song ended. The stars kept turning. And somewhere in the infinite dark, new frequencies were being born.